Hello, my dear Franken friends, and welcome to Spookyou, your one-stop shop for all things ghastly and ghoulish. I'm your host, Barnabas Vixen. How horrible of you to join us. Curl up, invite your friends, and by all means, make sure those lights are out. That way it's harder to tell what may or may not be lurking around you. There's nothing like a good mystery, am I right? Tonight will feature a singular tale of devilish design curated by those wicked weavers of woe. And without further ado, allow me to pass the reins on over to our vivacious voiceover virtuoso Trey Falco for tonight's sinister story. Please keep all limbs and side covers at all times. We wouldn't want anything to go missing now, would we?
This happened back on September 19th, 2019. It was antlerless deer season in Michigan, and my cousin came out and I decided to go out with him. He headed to the west side of the property and I went to the east side. I go through our woods, then cut into the neighbor's property, whose we have permission to hunt on, and head to the tree stand. Once I get close to the patch of woods behind the field, I feel a dark presence, but think nothing of it since it was still dark. I take 2 steps into the patch of woods, then hear yeep, like a dog getting stepped on. I look up to where the sound came from and see 2 glowing eyes about 30 yards away from me, looking right at me. And then it got up and ran away from me. It was taller than me, and it was gone in 2 running leaps. I reluctantly went back to the tree stand, trying to figure out what I had just seen, and hoping it doesn't come back, which, thankfully, it never did. Posted this in an Ask Reddit thread about your creepy experiences, and people said I should post it here. In January of 2010, I was driving to Los Angeles after spending the holidays with family. I-40 the whole way. After a long day of driving, I stopped at Holbrook, Arizona to get a hotel for the night. I get the room, pull around to the back parking lot, and park my car. I open the back door and start to grab my bags and get my stuff together I was going to take inside for the night. All of a sudden, I hear a crazy sounding roar. The closest I can come to describing it is that it sounded like a mixture of a bear roaring, a pig squealing, and a baby crying. I freeze, look up, and standing on the edge of the raised parking lot next door was some kind of man-dog thing. It was probably around 7 to 8 feet tall. I look at it, it roars again, and then I take off running towards my hotel room. I get to the door scared shitless, fumbling with my key card, and it roars again like it's just to the left of me. I get the key in the door, lock the door, and run in the bathroom and lock that door too. I sat there for maybe 30 minutes, and then I grabbed the pillows and blankets off the bed and slept in the bathtub all night with the door locked. I started searching on my phone for what the hell that was, and that was the night I learned about skinwalkers. If that exists, then what the hell else does that isn't supposed to? What was almost just as crazy is that when I bolted towards my room, I left my car unlocked and the doors wide open. They stayed open all night and nothing was taken or stolen, and I had a bunch of music equipment in there too. But yeah, be careful on the edges of a Navajo reservation. Oh, would you please calm down? We haven't even gotten to the maiming yet. Sorry about that, dear listeners. Is it time for a sponsor break already? Well, you're in luck because I've got the perfect one in mind. Tell me, friends, are you tired of those tenacious teenagers running amok in your neighborhood, vandalizing your hard-earned property? How about that one guy who always insists on mowing his lawn at 7:30 on a Saturday morning? Have you tried everything? No, I mean everything. And they keep on coming back? Well, it sounds like it's time for you to call the Scream Team. Voorhees, Kruger, and Associates, killers at large. Specializing in pest control, extermination, and dreamwalking, they will ensure your neighborhood is peaceful, tranquil, and free of any unwanted pests. Guaranteed! Efficiency is the core of everything they do at Voorhees, Kruger & Associates. With their patented 5-step killing method, you can rest assured knowing that the job you want done will be handled quickly, quietly, and without too much mess. With several different plans to choose from, including dismemberment, disembowelment, dream stalking, and more, no two jobs will ever be done the same way. As they say, variety is the spice of life. Looking for something a little more custom-suited to your problem? Then choose Other when selecting your preferred method of extermination and let your creativity run wild. They also offer pest deterrence and relocation packages, but come on, you wouldn't be calling them if that's how you wanted to handle this situation. Let's be honest. Be sure to use coupon code KILLERSAVINGS, all one word, at checkout to get half off your first extermination. The best part about this deal is that you get to choose which half to keep, the top half or the bottom half, or the left or right if you're into that kind of thing. That's Killer Savings at checkout to get half off your first extermination. Voorhees, Kruger & Associates, killers at large. Why call the rest when you can call the best? Now, I've got to get back to what I was doing before you rudely interrupted me. Now be gone! You've got a story to finish. Now where were we? Hi guys, super excited to have found a page to share some interesting experiences that I've had. The stories I will share will be ones I've experienced with others and can be confirmed by said individuals. First, I feel as though I have to give you readers some background information about myself. I was raised by my mother, who is 50% Cherokee and 50% French. Us kids have never met our biological grandpa, and believes in paranormal things but tries to pretend it isn't there. And by my father, who is Scottish, English, German, and Jewish by blood. He, on the other hand, is 100% atheist and is rather skeptical about things he cannot explain. He endeavors to be a logical and scientific person in all things. Well, due to major differences in personalities, beliefs, and values, they divorced when I was 8, and she soon married my stepfather, who was a devout Southern Baptist from Mississippi and basically gave up her identity as a native and became a God-fearing woman. Despite issues with my mother, my dad continued to let us visit with her mom and stepdad because he felt they were good people. They taught us many things about native culture, spirituality, legends, and the people. My grandmother and I spent a lot of time together, so I was given an opportunity to learn Cherokee medicine. My grandma comes from a long line of medicine men and women and is one herself. Now, so many years later, at the ripe old age of 23, I am one myself. So now you have some insight, and I'll continue. Now, this isn't a ghost story, but I do believe it qualifies as paranormal as it is outside usual daily happenings. About 2 years ago, my father, brother, and I moved into a new home a little more in the country than our previous homes had been. Something we all thoroughly enjoyed because we grew up immersed in nature and a love for the land. Shortly after moving there, about 3 months in, I decided it was time to expand my family by getting myself a puppy. This would be the first dog that would actually be in my care, and I've always had a very strong connection to dogs as my guiding spirit is a wolf. I learned this after a vision quest many years ago, and that's a story for another time. After a while of searching, I came across a beautiful 5-month-old male German Shepherd Pit Bull mix. I went to meet him and instantly fell in love. He was the greatest, very sweet, kind to the cats, and protective of me. He became my best friend, everything you could want in a dog. Now, anyone who has owned a puppy or young dog will know potty training is a task. Even after being with us 2 months, he was still waking me up every 2 to 4 hours to go outside. Hard on the circadian rhythm, but had to be done. On this occasion in particular, we got a late night visitor we weren't expecting. Like I said, my dog woke me up in the night, and this time it was around 2:45 a.m., and I wasn't ready, but I dragged myself out of bed and clicked on the leash. Opening the back door greeted me with a cool breeze. I rolled my eyes and went out into the yard with my pooch. He did the usual thing, sniffed around, and jumped in the freshly cut grass, completely forgetting what we'd come outside to do in the first place. I whistled at him, recaptured his attention, and he got back to business. As he squatted, I turned my head to the sky, offering him some privacy. And the moon was exceptionally large that night, almost full but not quite. During this observation, I began to realize there was no typical nighttime noise around me. As if that wasn't unusual enough, I had a shiver go down my spine and my arm hair began to stand on end. And that's when I heard my dog let out a low growl as he pinned himself against my legs. When I looked down at him, his tail was tucked and hackles were raised. And when I tried to move, he pressed himself against me more. Another shiver came over me, and now I took the opportunity to follow where his eyes were looking. And when I did, I was looking at what appeared to be a coyote. Not totally uncommon in the area. We'd heard them on many nights living here. But this was different, looked different, and felt different. The most frightening thing, however, was that it was looking right back at me. I didn't move, didn't take my eyes off of it, and that's how I was able to see its features so clearly in the moonlight. Its fur looked thin, even bald in some spots. Its eyes were yellow, not reflective yellow like you'd see on a dog in the dark, but yellow like the sun. Very powerful and almost blinding. And then looking more closely, I noticed its back legs were longer than a normal coyote. Longer than any canine creatures should be, actually. Starting at the hips and going down, they seemed to look almost bipedal in design. And that's when it dawned on me just what I was seeing. I picked up my 60-pound dog, never taking my eyes off the creature. And as I did, I said a Cherokee prayer in my head that I'd learned from my grandma. As if it was physically upset, it backed up slightly, and then I heard a voice that perfectly mimicked my grandma's say, "Why would you do that, Mickers?" No one aside from my grandparents ever called me that. It was their special name for me. With that, I darted for the door, dog still in my arms, entered, put him down, and locked it behind me. The noise must have woken up my brother because he came into the kitchen all bothered. He asked me what was going on and why the dog was all riled up, and I held my finger up to my mouth and shut off the light. We then made our way into the living room and shut that light off as well. And like something out of a horror movie, the outline of a tall humanoid thing shone through the stained glass of the small window in the door, thanks to the bright moonlight. We both froze, and he made a grab for the knob when it started to turn, capturing it just in time to lock it. That's when it spoke to him, but this time in my grandpa's voice.
"Bubba, why won't you let Grandpa in?"
And just to be clear, they live on the reservation in Cherokee, North Carolina. His face turned ghost white and he turned to me, and that's when I mouthed the word and he paled even more. It began to tap on the glass and we both went into my room and ignored the knocking. The next night, around the same time, the tapping grew louder. We sat in the living room praying to Unit Lenahi that it would go away. The tapping turned into knots, which turned into pounding the more we prayed. And this must have woken my father because he came downstairs in a huff. We'd told him about the night prior during the day, but he didn't believe us and thought it was just one of my brother's friends being an asshole. So when he saw the silhouette in the window, he grew more angry and made a beeline for the door. We yelled at him not to open it, but he did. However, instead of harming him, it seemed to be afraid because it got down on 4 legs again and disappeared down the road. My dad's face paled as he stumbled back a few steps. He locked the door behind him and we all went to bed. The next day we talked about the situation and I explained to him the natives call this creature a skinwalker. They aren't very common in Cherokee legend, they're more of a Western native legend, but my grandparents still taught us about them. Dad, being the skeptic, just summed it up to a weird thing he couldn't explain. Later that day I went to our local craft store and bought juniper ash as my grandma instructed and sprinkled it around our house. It never returned, but my dog was never the same after that night. It's as though the entire experience changed him. He went from a loving animal to mean and unpredictable. He started lashing out at anyone who wasn't female. We tried correcting it over the course of a year and a half, but nothing helped. He finally harmed my brother, causing him to bleed, and I was forced to find him a new home. Luckily, he is with a couple who are both female, and he seems much happier, but even to this day, I guarantee he won't go out at night. I didn't mention the name of the creature very many times because it's considered a bad omen in native culture to give those things energy. If anyone is nervous after reading this, please feel free to message me and I will happily walk you through a prayer and ritual taught to me by my grandmother. I hope you enjoyed and pleasant dreams.
Welcome back, my darling deviants. Well, tell me, did you enjoy that twisted tale? Of course you did. I knew you had that air about you, that hunger for the horrific and the macabre. So, did we spook you? If not, then file a complaint with our complaint department detailing all accounts of non-spookiness you found in this video, and we'll get back to you in 2 to 3 millennia. Give or take a business eon or two. However, if you've enjoyed what you've just heard this evening, then make sure you leave a like on this video and annihilate that subscribe button. Such a small act of obedience is exactly what we need to put the food on the table around here. There's only so many days we can have refried kidney and toe jam hash before I'm absolutely sick of it. Spoiler alert, that ship sailed long ago. Now, I must bid you adieu. I've many things to take care of, and this outro is eating into my day off. Run along now. Have no fear, we'll be here every Tuesday and Thursday to bring you another terrible tale. Go forth, my ghastly gang, and stay spooky.